Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your friendly neighborhood ghost Exodus. Figured I would drop a video. I know it's been a while since I've done so. A lot of you may not be aware, but I had initially closed down the doors of the Electronic Tribulation Army group chat just to take a step back for a little while from um, our group-led online child safety initiative while I think of new avenues to approach this situation with this epidemic in a more effective way. Um, with that being said, there's obviously a need for a lot of answers that people are asking about, you know, related to hunting. And even though I am not in the trenches currently, uh, it's still an agenda that I have to continue the work, but to be more effective. Um, and you want to work smarter and not harder. And you also want your work and your time to matter. So, with that being said, I still get a lot of questions asked in another group chat that we run. It's like a backup chat. Um, Someone asked me recently about, you know, infiltrating groups and building evidence on users to get them arrested. Users that are involved in you know, child sexual abuse material, CSAM, CP, things like that. Another person had suggested using artificial intelligence to scrape and collect evidence with metadata and et cetera, et cetera. So obviously there's a lot of ideas out there and there's a willingness to continue fighting this epidemic, but there's not a lot of educators who are offering information, advice, or insights from their experiences. So I want to offer that today. So just bear in mind, listen, take notes if you have to. Um, so here's the issue that a lot of us deal with. Um, the epidemic is overwhelming, okay? Um, and we always approach this in this grassroots mindset that we have. And I'm using that as a conventional term because many of us are or were, hacktivists. Um, so we come at this with a mindset that there is an epidemic, there's an issue that has to be solved. We have the OSINTing skills to solve these issues. We can de-anonymize bad actors, we can collect evidence, and we can give it to law enforcement because they're not doing their job. Let me stop you right there. So you can do your own research on this, but the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children receive thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of reports a day. Um, Similar groups like the Internet Watch Foundation, other organizations, which I don't have to get into, uh, if you were to tally up all of the reports they receive daily and just combine it all into a figure, the reports they receive is astronomical. Okay, mind you, like the NCMEC, which works in tandem with the FBI's Internet Crime and Complaint Center, I believe. Uh, they're a nonprofit organization with not a lot of employees, and they're volunteers. They don't do this for profit. So we're talking about a few hundred volunteers, and a small portion of them are law enforcement or are retired law enforcement. So you're talking about an infrastructure problem trying to process hundreds of thousands of reports, and not just process. Let's put this into perspective. Triage. Think of these like security risks. You have to triage which ones are the most, the worst, and which ones are less of a priority in conjunction with, resources and, actual, using those resources for the most heinous of reports. So to make this, to fine tune that perspective, think about the worst reports are actual victims themselves trying to report on what is happening to them. I'm talking about like children, right? Or someone reporting that maybe a friend is being abused. Those take those 2 points alone. Those priorities will overshadow any reports coming in from third parties who are not victims, who stumbled upon, links on the internet or images, who, they're not victims themselves. And so these are probably the majority of the reports that they receive. So it's not that they discard them, it's that they're not prioritized. And because there's not enough funding, there is not enough people, there is not enough computational power to even process all of that. This is why a lot of reports don't seem to go anywhere. Um, so keep this in mind. You want to hunt in the trenches. This is probably not the best way to do it. Um, if you're passionate about safeguarding children online, take that passion and redirect it to something that does have the infrastructure to make a difference. You can join these NGO groups. And when I talk about join, I'm talking about joining them. I'm talking about going through the vetting process, yeah, um, and going through the criminal background checks and everything that goes with it, and then doing it by their rules, doing it uh, in a way that will get you results. Because if you want results, this is the way to do it. I'm standing by this. Um, this is also in part why I have taken a step back from this, from fighting in the trenches, because it is not effective. It's really not. With the amount of hours and resources and time, well, that's also goes with hours. Um, it why keep going through the same avenue if it doesn't produce the results you're wanting? So go join an NGO group. I know the Exodus Roads is one of them. The Internet Watch Foundation is another one. Um, there's obviously the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Just do your research, Google, and find out which of these groups are hiring, are looking for O centers. There's actually quite a lot. Um, this is the way to make a positive change in, the epidemic situation that we're facing. Um, So take that same passion and that same drive and determination and redirect it that way, away from the grassroots stuff. All right. Now, a lot of these questions that I get asked, I don't have to go through the questions, but when I had mentioned about infiltrating groups, the reason why I don't do this is because of the legal boundaries. All right. You can't knowingly access websites that distribute this illegal material. Um, for one thing, you will become a suspect yourself. Two, you've just collected evidence, probably in a way you don't even know um, if it's usable. Um, so, collecting the very material that other people go to prison for, it's illegal. You tainted the evidence. Um, Plus, most grassroots people in anonymous, people who are hacktivists, um, a lot of them don't know how to even collect evidence in a way that preserves the integrity of metadata. Not only that, but creating a chain of custody or a report that, someone reading that report would be able to follow point from point A to point B and be able to understand your logic and how you arrived at these conclusions. Because you have to also bear in mind that if you're gathering evidence, it has to be gathered in such a way that makes it admissible. If you're obtaining evidence illegally by infiltrating these groups, then you've already tainted the evidence, even if you have preserved the metadata because of the way it was obtained. So as you see, there's all these red barriers, all these the red tape and a lot of barriers in place that makes grassroots hunting, and that's hunting in an unauthorized way that does not have the approval by, let's say, the FBI. you've already created a situation for, the FBI and for yourself. And for people who do this, they do make themselves into a suspect. Because even though you may say, I am a hunter, I'm with Anonymous, I have years of experience in OSINTing, none of that matters. You're not vetted. Just because you say it is so does not make it so to them. So, um, infiltrating groups is not how you help um, the situation. Even though it's the most, I don't know, logical conclusion to people who have those abilities to infiltrate groups and to gather evidence, it collecting the evidence, even accessing these websites is illegal. So that pretty much eliminates an entire realm of hunting, making doing so illegal. If by any chance law enforcement or these groups just kind of like turn a blind eye to it, it doesn't mean they respect you. It means that they are probably, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it because I've never been in that position. But let's just say the chances of them turning a blind eye is next to none. Um, if someone is an informant, which is also few, far, and in between, chances are, like, if you're not an informant, that you're not going to get anywhere. And I can't think of too many people who um, have been employed by the FBI to work exclusively as an informant for this, because that um, would be unethical on their part. Now, on the other hand, the FBI has huge infrastructure in place already to catch many of these people, and they're very good at it. Um, they're phenomenally good at it. And just because you may have heard or have learned of a website you think they may not know about, you could be wrong. That site could be a honeypot used to draw, predators in, to for the FBI to de-anonymize them, to have them arrested. Thousands upon thousands and thousands of sex offenders are in the prison system because of these FBI honeypots. So just because they may or may not be aware of a link or a group or a person doesn't mean they're not doing anything at all. It just means they may not be aware of it, or that they may have a honeypot in place that might be their honeypot. They will never tell you whether it is or isn't, and they will also never tell you if it's being investigated or not. So this also makes it feel like you're on the outside, wondering when they're going to act, when you have no idea. They're never going to tell you what they're doing or if they're doing anything at all. It's just something you have to just understand. That's how it is. So scraping and accessing the material is illegal. You just can't do it. If you want to do that, you have to work for an NGO and follow their rules. That's just how it is. That's a non-government organization, obviously. Okay, so moving on, like this kind of, so you have to eliminate things that are illegal for you to do, um, and try to find the gray area. Um, for example, some people do like what is it? Social engineering, like posing as underage people to try to get, a predator to say certain things that is illegal, is also itself illegal to do, which kind of seems self-serving. But if you think about it, um, um, I don't even know. But listen, it is also illegal in the United States. It falls under entrapment, and only law enforcement has the legal power to operate in this area, unless you are authorized by law enforcement to do that under their supervision. Since none of us were, this also makes things very difficult. So, but that doesn't mean you can't. This means that you need to research the cybercrime laws in other countries. And sometimes, if let's say if you think about operating in the United States, but you have all this red tape, try finding a country that doesn't have as much red tape and focus on maybe a geographical location. Think about like Italy. Maybe it has different laws than, let's say, the UK. So find certain jurisdictions that you can operate in so that you can do these things. But so for every hunter, you have to know the laws. Um, it doesn't mean you have to be a legal expert. Just use ChatGPT, use Google, use whatever your search engine is. But you have to do the research, or else you're incriminating yourself and you're making evidence inadmissible. Um, so this is where we are. We're in a we're at a state where the most important thing for every hunter is to understand the laws first. Have that passion to learn, to understand your environment so that you know what you can and cannot do. Um, this is very important. In other countries, it is not illegal to allow someone to assume that you are underage, um, and then they, essentially engage in, the predator engages in self-incriminating conversations. In America, that's illegal. You can't do that. But in other countries, it is legal. So understand that it's important to look up the legal, limitations that you have in other countries and take advantage of those. Um, that way you can be effective if you're not working for an NGO. So, rule number one, do not access the websites. Don't access any of the websites. Don't view the material. Um, if you do see it, like let's say you're on X or on Facebook, and you just come across a group or a person, and they're using code words, or they posted this link publicly, that post, report that post, not to the platform, because Meta is not really well known for acting, you know, on removing and getting these people prosecuted. Remember, reporting the links on platforms like Telegram, like X, like Facebook, like Instagram, and wherever you find it, reporting it to the platform does not do anything. Does not do anything. If those accounts get banned, if they do, and that would be a miracle, if they do, they just create new accounts and they just continue doing it. So reporting it to the platform is absolutely futile and kind of helps the predators benefit from it because it means there's no legal repercussions. And if there's no legal repercussions, they continue to do it. So what you do is you grab the post, like the link of the post, grab the name of the person, right? Whatever metadata is right there. You don't access the link, but you just take what is there and report that to the NCMEC, uh, or the IWF, or whatever organization that operates in your country. Report it there, and then you have to take your hands off of it because beyond that, there's nothing you can do, and that's a fact. They're never going to tell you anything. That's just when you take your hands off of it. Um, I have heard from some, and here's another thing too. First, before I get into that, mass reporting it to the NCMEC is stupid. Don't do that. If you hear of anyone doing that, tell them to stop, because what you're doing is you're flooding an organization that is small, where only a few hundred people work for it, with mass reports that have to be triaged by someone, whereas actual reports then become, because you're overwhelming them, it becomes offset where they have to process this and triage that. So you're stealing time from an organization that could be handling actual reports of maybe people who are being abused. So think about the sabotage that causes organizations when someone says, let's just mass report it. That person is stupid. And moving on. Yes, I said that. That person is stupid. You're welcome. Mm. All right. Um, so don't mass report. I even forgot what point I was going to say before I brought that up. Score one for having ADD. Um, for this reason, um, yeah, okay, so going back to social media. So in social media, a lot of things happen because we're not looking for things. Um, so don't report it to the platform. And if you're hunting, don't go out looking for CP. Don't click on links at all. Don't click on them at all. Um, doing so taints, your credibility. But when people are hunting for websites, they're intentionally engaging, this material. They're intentionally looking for it, which is illegal to do. But when this is happening in full public view, and you're not accessing the material at all, um, you're not viewing it. So it's a bit different, just a little different. But just don't click the links. Don't look at the pictures. Don't save any of that shit. Just report it to those organizations. Um, oh yes, this was what I was going to say. Someone once said that they were able to get a child predator taken off the streets and off the internet and arrested because I don't know, the squeakiest wheel gets the most oil because they kept phoning the FBI or emailing or calling the FBI, reporting it over and over and over and over, overwhelming the FBI, to where in order to get rid of this guy, to make him shut up, they looked into it and blah blah blah, and he claimed or alleged that that person was arrested. Um, so I don't know if that works. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it would. Um, but I can't vouch for that. That is not in my experience. Um, another thing you have to understand in hunting is people who collect evidence, and I know we don't collect we don't collect illegal shit. You have to understand that just because you think that you've collected all the evidence and have put it in a nice package in a perfect little bow and sent it off to the FBI or wherever you've sent it to, and you think it's an open and closed case, it couldn't be more obvious than that. They're not going to take your word for it because they don't freaking know who you are. They don't know how you collected it or how you connected point A to point B. So you have to think that the FBI have their own investigative method for verifying information. They can't take your word for it because you might be biased. Um, so there's a lot of things that you have to bear in mind that just because you think you've collected all the evidence and put it into a nice little package and it's perfect, it's an open and closed case, you send it off to them, um, they can't just take it and be like, oh, this makes sense. This the conclusion, it's so obvious. Let's go arrest the guy. Um, no, it doesn't work like that. They can't even use what you've put together as evidence because it wasn't collected by them. It's been collected by an unknown third party. Uh, and so it could be tainted, it could be biased, it could be a lot of things, but they can't use it. They can't even really use it as a blueprint because your conclusion might be tainted, it might be biased, so they have to do things their own way. So the best thing, and this all goes back to what I said earlier, the best thing you can do is simply, if you stumble across this innocently and don't access the information or the images or the links themselves to verify or validate or anything, that's not your job, it's their job. Just take that, don't visit it, and report it. Okay? It's simple. And if you want to do more than that, which sounds, I get it, it sounds defeating considering how much This epidemic has devoured the world you know what I mean? It's completely overshadowed everything, how bad it is right now because we're not getting any help. Join those NGO groups. If you want to fight for the innocence of children, join those groups, join those NGOs. And that way you can make a difference. That way you can guarantee to make a difference. That way, if you're on a case, there's a guarantee that using your skills and your knowledge, you will make a difference. That predator will be arrested. Children will be protected that way. So don't waste your time. I highly encourage you to do the right thing. Study those laws if you're going to fight in those trenches. Become familiar with different jurisdictions and choose the right jurisdiction to operate in. And don't sit in these groups who are sharing links. I've seen many of them, even in anonymous, you know, and you don't even know. I got done telling some of these people so many times, stop sharing links, stop exposing these links all over social media. You are not helping. You're making things worse. You need to find those people, set them down, and be like, take them to this video. Watch Ghost Exodus's video. Listen to some of the things he says. Just understand this is you're playing with fire. That's what I'm trying to say. Um, if you catch any one of these people sharing those links in their hunter groups, and those groups are not even locked down, and they're sharing these links at all, none of the none of these people are vetted for. You don't know who you're hunting with. You don't know this person's name. You don't know their internet footprint. Um, we've found several people behind the Guy Fawkes masks the last few years who were predators, who should have never been in those groups. So think about that. Yeah, that's something. And that's something that's why when people who were in the ETA hunting with us had to vet them. I know who they are and they know who I am. And people who have a willingness to save those kids will have a willingness to study those laws and know where they can operate. And their end goal will be to join an NGO. If that's not your goal, I don't think your heart is in the right place. I'll be honest with you. If that is not your goal, then you shouldn't be hunting. Because if the goal is to help kids, you're going to want to join that NGO that has the authorization to do what they do with the support with law enforcement. All right. So take that in mind, take it to heart. Um, I'm out.